Now the whole situation is like stomach. Fanatics. They have power. See. Anyway, it's a big change. Big changes in the world. People understand things more than I do. Shields is definitely coming. Right. But slide your Pharaoh, stake, how you can make this happen. Who knows? The president of Syria ran away was terrible. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. Murdered. Anybody who was opposed to that posted it. It's murdered. All right. Chapter 20. Let's hope and pray for the Geula week, especially. I'm not saying this was a David. The Psalm for King David. Young Hanai and Sarah, Shem Shansi on a day of distress. Yisagel Hashem Elohei Yankeh should give you support. The God of Jacob, Yishach Ezra HaMekadesh should send help from the holy chamber in the base of Mikdash. And from the base of Mikdash, Yisadeka support you. Yizker Kol Miklasech, you should recall all your offerings. The flour offering is called a mincha. The burnt offering of an animal is called an oila. The dashna selah should be accepted graciously. Yiten laha, and in return, Hashem should grant laha chilvavecha, your heart's requests. Yamale, and the good resolutions, we should enable you to fulfill them. Mirana, now let us rejoice. Bishu asecha, in your salvation, Hashem. Uvashem Eloheinu nidgel, and let us raise the banner of Hashem high. Ki Hashia Hashem Adonai Mashiach, Hashem has saved, will save, and does save his anointed one. Yaneu Mishmei Kodesh, and answers him from his holy heavens. The Gevuras with might, Yesha, salvation, Yamina, from his right hand. Eile Rechav, Eile V'susim. Some come with the chariots, some come with the cavalry. V'anachnu b'shem Adonai Eloheinu nazkir. We come with our armies, but we come with the name of God on our lips. Hey, Makaru, and Apollo, they fell, they bent and fell. V'anachnu kamnu, we stood up, and he's oided, and we're stalwart. Adonai Yeshua Melech Adonai Ben Karenu, Hashem is our salvation. He's the King. He is our King, and He answers us on the day that we call unto Him. Your grandchildren are going to ask, what was it like just before Mashiach came? You say, well, we were learning chapter 4 in Tanya. All right, so we learned that ideas about the greatness of Hashem in your mind make their way instantaneously, the speed of light, into your heart and result in the emotions of love of God and fear of God. And now he explains, page 79. Ki ha'ava Misharish Kol Ramach Mitzvahs Asay. Ramach stands for 248. Resh is 200. Right? Mem is 40. And Tes is 8. So you know how that works, right? Everybody understands how the numbers work. Go up to 9, we go to 10, then we go to 20, then we go to 30, then we go to 90, then we go to 100. And that's how we put together numbers. So Ramach stands for 248. The number also, the word Ramach also means a spear. A spear. So at one crucial point in the story of the Exodus from Egypt, the Midianite people came up with a very nasty plan in that they were advised by a wise man who was a descendant of Laban. They were advised that God hates promiscuity, immodesty. So he said, you will never conquer this people unless you get them on the wrong side of Hashem. And how can you do that? By seducing them into promiscuous behavior. And so, very cunningly, little by little, the Midianites sent their daughters to seduce the Jewish men. And they did it little by little, having a marketplace. Medrash describes how they did it. And they would get to be friendly with the people who came to do the shopping. Then they would invite them into the tent, and then inside the tent was a maiden. And then the maiden would try to attract the attentions and affections of these young men. And then when they got interested and they got hot to be with the maiden, she would say she would pull an idol out of her dress and say, worship my idol. So they would do it. And that caused terrible, terrible plague. 24,000 people died of plague. Hashem sent a plague because he was so upset. Here he took them out of Egypt and they're worshiping an idol instead of him. And the leader of this whole thing was a man who was one of the princes of the Jewish people. And his name was Zimri, prince of Shimon. And he was seduced by none less than the royal princess of Midian. And she was, the Torah, the Medrash tells us, a woman of great spiritual powers. If you want to say like a witch, if you will. And he began to have an affair with her. And so when Moshe protested against this, they came to Zimri and said, defend us, you're the one who's doing this. Moshe, all of a sudden, Moshe didn't know what to do. Moshe says he wrung his hands. He didn't know what to do, didn't know what to say, didn't know what to do. Because Zimri was a powerful person. And Zimri challenged Moshe when Moshe said, it's clear, we're not allowed to have relations with non-Jewish women, Midianite women. And now Moshe's wife, Zipporah, was from Midian. And Zimri said to me, so who gave you permission to marry Zipporah? And Moshe didn't know how to answer. And Pinchas, who was the grandson of Aaron, and when the tabernacle was built, Hashem appointed, through Moshe, Aaron and his children to be priests. So there were 4 of them, 4 children, and Aaron makes 5, but not grandchildren. So Pinchas got left out. He was a grandchild. Pinchas rushed forward and said, Moshe Rabbeinu, you taught us that if someone does something flagrantly against Hashem of such a nature, idol worship, a zealot can take matters into his own hands. And so Moshe said, so do it. So you do it. And so he took a spear and he burst into the tent. Now that you have to understand, the layout of the Jewish camp was 12 miles across. It was very big. It's like from here to Borough Park. It's very, very big. For millions of people. He burst into the area of the tribe of Shimon, burst into the tent, which was Shimon's tent. He was the leader. He was the Nasi, the prince of Shimon. And he was in the act of cohabiting with Cosby, the princess, and he speared them in the act. Together. What's a spear? A spear is Reish Mem Ches Aroma. So he speared them with the power of the 248 positive mitzvahs. The tribe were up in arms. That's our prince. And he was given superhuman strength, and he carried them around the camp like that for everybody to see, because the law is a zealot can take matters into his own hands, but only at the moment that they're doing the transgression. If they had got up and he had attacked them, it would have been murder. He would have been a murderer. So it's a very extraordinary situation. Anyway, so this is the idea of 248 positive commandments. That is the power behind the 248 positive mitzvahs. And how do we, in other words, if we have an idea of the greatness of Hashem, and therefore we want to be connected to Hashem, how can we express our love of Hashem? How do we do that? I love you, Hashem. What am I supposed to do? So the answer is, we express our love of Hashem by doing the mitzvahs with love. Not doing them like going through the motions. But because I love Hashem, that's why I'm giving tzedakah. Because I love Hashem, that's why I'm learning Torah. Because I love Hashem, that's why I'm doing a favor for another Jew. It's all an expression. Doesn't Hashem love this Jew? Yes, so I'm also doing what Hashem would do. So we express our love for Hashem in the 248 mitzvahs of the Torah. And now he says an extraordinary thing. The source of these mitzvahs is the love of Hashem that we have. And without this love, the mitzvahs the love has no substance. So they go together. We have to have love of Hashem, and we have to do the mitzvahs. And the one expresses the other. Now, if you have money to give to a poor person and you don't feel for it, you should give them anyway. You can't say, well, I'm only going to give them if, as, and when I feel love for them. They need to eat. Whether you feel love for them or not, they need to eat. So you do the mitzvah even if you don't have the love. And then you have a question, how do I access this love? I don't feel love for God. I mean, I wish I did. A person might say, I wish I did, but I'm a lowly person. I'm not on such a level that I can feel a lofty love for the abstract, invisible greatness of Hashem. So the answer is, how do you learn to ride a bicycle? How do you learn to ride a horse? How do you learn to ski on the mountain slope? How do you learn to water ski? How do you learn to do gymnastics? By doing it. And nobody was born knowing how to ski or how to ride a bicycle or how to do gymnastics. Little by little, you had to build yourself up and train yourself until your body was able to do it properly. Practice. I told you the story once. And this is the second time I'm telling you this story about the tourist who came to Manhattan and he asked a lady on the street, how do you get to Carnegie Hall, the famous concert hall? And she said, practice. So by practicing the mitzvahs, that's how you access the love that's in your heart. That's where it's going to come from. Just like, I don't know how you all learn how to ride bicycles, but you have training wheels. In my day, my father, Olam Sholem, held onto the seat and ran behind me, and then let go. And there I was riding a bicycle. That's what I went. And everything you. So the person says, when I feel love for God, then I'll keep the Sabbath. Then I'll put on tefillin. Then I'll keep kosher. And never, it's not going to happen. Put on tefillin, keep the Sabbath, keep kosher, and you'll come to feel a love for God. And you know when you feel it? When someone says you're not allowed to keep kosher, they say, but I want to keep kosher. Too late now. It's a new rule. It's always been like that. There have been decrees from governments not allowing Jews. And it comes back. There's a movement in Europe today to prevent performing the mitzvah of bris milah. Give a child a bris, enter him into a circumcision. You say it's a human. Not allowed to do it. A person caught doing it, go to jail. In fact, I think there's a young man who's in jail now. Which country was it? I think in China, to put him in jail. People told him it's okay, do it. And hopefully, and someone informed the authorities, and he was arrested for mutilating the body of a poor little child. So love and performing mitzvahs go together. And the person who wants to perform a mitzvah in truth, you want your mitzvahs to be true mitzvahs, real mitzvahs, not just going through the motions, then they have to be with love. And that's a person who loves the name of God and desires to cleave to him. That's very, very, every phrase is very, very important. Look at the Hebrew. Hamakayama, the person keeps mitzvahs, the emes, and he does it really in the truest sense. Hu ha'oyev es Hashem, Hashem. He is a person who loves the name of God, and that's why he does the mitzvahs. The chafetz l'davka boy, and he desires, his great desire in life is to cling to God. He's not interested in having 5 cars or 5 homes or 500 sets of clothes. He's interested in being connected to God. That's his love. The EF Shar, now the Alter Rebbe says, it's impossible for Davka boy to cling to God, the emes, and it should be for real. It should be real. It should be true. He says a statement, cut and dried. There's no other way. You want to be a musician, you want to think of God through music, that's okay. You want to be an artist, you want to cling to God through your art, that's okay. But the real way to cling to God is through doing his commandments. That's uniting you with him. It's not just how you feel. It's what he wants from you. And you understand it in your own life. That when you have a roommate and there's understanding between you of what kind of behavior is going to work in our room, in our dormitory, if your roommate agrees with you and you both do the same kinds of things, you feel very good about it. But let's say there's something that your roommate does that you don't agree with. And this seems to be a very important principle in the stability of your room and the decency of the room, where you want the room to be. And if it's not being carried out, how are you going to feel? Upset. So we see there's a connection between fulfilling somebody's desires and the feeling of satisfaction and happiness that it causes them to have. So your actions now merge into the desires of your good friend, and you have a really wonderful friendship. And our actions, our mitzvahs, are what Hashem wants us to do. And when we do them, that causes a very wonderful feeling of love and attachment. That's how we cleave to Hashem, by doing the mitzvahs. Okay? Anybody want to tell a story about that? I'm sure everybody's experienced this. And that's what it says. When the Jewish people do something against the will of Hashem, so since Hashem gets very angry, he doesn't feel like giving them a blessing. So then if he holds his blessing, then things go bad. And King David cries out, "Why, Hashem, have you abandoned us? Please return. Look kindly upon us once again. We'll do our best. We'll be good." What's it called? The feeling of satisfaction when a person fulfills your desires is called nachas. My nachasel, person says about his children. Good child, you're my nachasel, you're my nachas. Nachas is higher than wisdom. It's much greater than wisdom. Your willpower is greater than your wisdom. If a person wants, he can become very smart. A simple person can become very smart. If he really wants and applies himself, or she applies herself, she can become very, very insightful and talented. And when that happens, and she's successful, she and her teachers will feel a tremendous sense of satisfaction and delight. That's called delight. So we see two things here. That maybe three things. The inner source of mitzvahs is the love of God that we have. That's why we do that, to cleave to Him. And doing the mitzvahs come from a level of godliness higher than wisdom. They contain wisdom, but they come from a level higher than wisdom because they are Hashem's willpower. Willpower is much greater than the willpower of wisdom, intellect. Willpower is greater than intellect. Nothing stands as a saying, nothing stands in the way of a strong-willed person. Strong willpower will always prevail. Strong willpower will prevail. What causes a person to have such a strong will to do something? The answer to that is the anticipation of delight on doing it. So that the mitzvah has external form, which is how you do it, and the inner life of the mitzvah is the delight that it causes in the one who does it. And the one who does it for. Bottom of page 79. Because the 248 mitzvahs, how do they connect us to Hashem? Because Hashem also does them. They are the divine image of God. God doesn't have an image. What is His image? His image is the composite of all of these mitzvahs together. If you have a being that does all these mitzvahs, that's going to be a beautiful, beautiful person. And he will be an embodiment of the idea of God. He's not God, but he's connected to God because his limbs are doing what Hashem's limbs also do. The mitzvahs are called Hashem's mitzvahs. Why are they called Hashem's mitzvahs? Because He gives them to us? Yes. But more than that, because He does them. They're His. He does His mitzvahs and He gives them to us that we should also do them. Like a father wants to take his son into the business. It's very great delight for a father to be able to incorporate his son in the business. It's very special. So the 248 mitzvahs correspond to 248 aspects of God, and these aspects are called allegorically the limbs of the king. So we have in our body 248 limbs, and there's one mitzvah for every one of them. So by doing mitzvahs, we connect our physical body with a much higher source, spiritual source, which is the 248 limbs of Hashem. That's love. Tomorrow we'll talk about fear.
Thank you, Rabbi Pape.
What?
Thank you.
Passover, well, it says it's 9 minutes after 9. It's such a special book. Okay. Thank you for setting this all up for me. Makes it easy to remember to do the right thing. I'm a little under the weather, as you can hear, fighting off the cold. I hope I'll get through the day okay. It's like nothing better than just to go to bed and fall asleep. I have no strength.
So you should rest. So you should rest. You can listen to your body.
That's a luxury I can't really afford. I have to go down now. After that,
And drink tea.
Drink, yeah. My mother always, I'll lay in she always say, flush it out, she would say.
Chicken soup. Chicken soup.
Chicken soup, yeah.
And you would lemon and honey. You know that? Chicken soup for the soul.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, hi, Andreas.
Hi, Rabbi Pape.
Say hi to everybody.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Laura came in and set this up. I didn't notice. She was listening the whole time. Yeah, Mrs. Rebbitzin Simcha also. I saw her yesterday. I think her name was Rosenberg. She says she listens every morning on Zoom.
Hi, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the highlight of my day.
Ours too. Better.
Best part of the day. I'm so happy this is how I started my day.
Feel
Have a
better.
wonderful day.
You watch the video on YouTube.
Bye.
Feel better. Bye.
He's so cute. Hi, guys.
Yeah, it's just like hard. Yeah, no, I say that. Do you mind? I'm trying. Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to start doing recording yesterday. Yeah, do you want to start? You guys want to join? Of course. It's a great name. Yeah, I know. We have the same name. No, it's crazy, right? Because it's not common. It's not common. It's not. That combination is not. It's not. I love it. Yeah. 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 What's your Russian, English, German name? I don't know what you call it. Russian, English, German. I don't know which one. Where are you from, Russia? From Ukraine. Yeah. Ima. Oh, it's the same thing? No. Oh. Anna is the for mine. I was gonna be Anna. Okay, there was a whole mix up with my passports. Yeah, and then my parents just decided to go. That's so funny because my grandma's name from Germany was Hanet, which is what was it? Hanet. Hanet lower. H-A. Hanel? Hanet. Hanet. Okay, which in Spanish is Anna. Yeah. In English, it's Hanet. Yeah. Yeah. Anna comes from Hanet. Yeah. And with German, it's Hanet. H-A-N-T. I don't know, I never heard it. And the passport. Yeah. Really? Because of the Holocaust. Huh? Do you have a German passport?
No,
No.
because all my grandparents are German, and you can get one for, in Germany and stuff.
Do you have American as well? Oh. And do you have an Argentinian?
Argentinian.
Also because of the reparations for the Holocaust, they give German passports.
Yeah, but no, that wasn't why.
Right. No, I'm just saying.
Oh, it was just because,
Is that fix it better?
yeah, right, exactly. It's just because you're allowed to what, until third generation.
I think that's as many Europeans.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, use it for everything.
I heard that in Israel you could also get a passport if you have like if you're
A grandparent.
yeah, that's
That's what, is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's also.
yeah.
I don't have it.
But I know I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all.
I have a father, mine is like whatever European. All my family's like. I'm sure back, somewhere. We'll go back to Israel, but
Right. Yeah.
has to be very back.
Black.
Even though after the Holocaust, my parents didn't watch the video. White video.
After the Holocaust, you're gonna
Israel.